Okay, so today we're going deep on something pretty monumental. A market shift that's genuinely rewriting the rules in tech. I mean, for years, decades really, it felt like Apple and Microsoft were just the immovable objects, right? Their market caps seemed totally untouchable.
Absolutely. They were the titans, the benchmark for everyone else.
Exactly. But then, almost out of nowhere, it feels like there's this new champion, just shattering records, redefining the whole landscape. It's kind of astonishing. So our mission here in this deep dive is to really unpack that. How did this happen? Why does it matter so much, not just for tech, but, the global economy? And what's it telling us about the future?
Yeah, it's more than just numbers. It feels like a fundamental shift.
It really does. So let's just state the core fact here. We're talking about Nvidia. On July 3rd, 2025, just the other day, it hit a market value of, get this, $3.92 trillion.
Trillion with a T.
Right. Just let that sink in. $3.92 trillion. That officially makes it the most valuable company in history.
And it just edged out Apple's record, didn't it?
It did. Apple hit $3.915 trillion back on December 26th, 2024.
Yeah.
So even that record wasn't that old. This is happening fast.
It really is. And what's fascinating, I think, beyond the sheer size of the number is the speed. The speed of this shift is just breathtaking. It's such a clear signal about where technology priorities are really heading now. It tells you a lot about, well, vision, innovation, execution.
And the company itself, I mean, who are we talking about here?
Right. Nvidia started back in 1993. And for most of its life, it was known pretty much exclusively for making graphics cards, for video games.
For gamers, yeah.
To think that company, the video game chip company, is now the most valuable in the world, well, that's quite a story. There's a lot to learn there.
Okay, so let's unpack that story. From gaming niche to almost $4 trillion. How did that happen? The growth is it's hard to fathom.
It really is.
Nearly an eightfold increase in value in just 4 years. They were at $500 billion in 2021. $500 billion. That's huge already.
Already massive, yeah.
And now, July 2025, it's knocking on the door of $4 trillion.
Yeah.
It really is like, the quiet kid in class suddenly becomes class president, and the popular kids, Apple, Microsoft, are left just sort of scratching their heads. The scale of it is just, wow. It's not just growth. It feels like an explosion, a real shift in the ground beneath our feet.
It does. And it definitely wasn't just luck, or being in the right place at the right time, although that helped. The founders, Jensen Huang, Chris Malachowski, Curtis Prime, they started with GPUs, graphics processing units for gaming. That was the focus.
Right.
But the really interesting part, the visionary part, was seeing the potential of those same GPUs for something completely different.
Parallel
Processing.
Okay, explain that a bit. Parallel processing versus like normal computer chips.
Sure. So your traditional CPU, the main brain of a computer, it's great at doing tasks one after another, sequentially, very fast, very complex tasks, but one by one. GPUs, because they were designed to render graphics millions of pixels all at once. They're built differently. They excel at doing thousands or even millions of simpler calculations simultaneously, in parallel.
Okay. Like an army of workers instead of one super fast worker.
Exactly. And that capability, it turned out to be the absolute key for artificial intelligence.
How so?
Well, think about training these huge AI models. It's not about doing one really hard math problem. It's about doing billions and billions of relatively simple calculations, adjustments, all at the same time over and over again.
Okay, I see. And GPUs are perfect for that.
They're tailor-made for it. So this strategic pivot, deciding to really push hard into AI, into data centers, that changed everything for NVIDIA. There are newer chips like the H100, and the next big thing they're talking about, the Blackwell architecture. These aren't just faster gaming cards. They are essentially purpose-built AI supercomputers designed from the ground up for these incredibly intense AI jobs.
And everyone needs them now.
Pretty much everyone in big tech. Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, you name it. They are all building their AI future on top of NVIDIA's hardware. That gives you a sense of how foundational, how indispensable they've become.
And you have to credit the leadership there, right? Particularly CEO Jensen Huang. His vision seems central to this whole story.
Absolutely pivotal, yeah.
I saw his personal net worth is now something like $139 billion in 2025, and it jumped $25 billion just this year. That alone tells you something about the value being created.
It really does. It speaks volumes about his leadership, his persistence with this specific approach. And it's not just AI training. He's pushed them into autonomous driving, healthcare, scientific computing.
It's broad strategy.
Very broad. And it's not just the hardware either. This is important. They developed something called CUDA.
CUDA, right. I've heard of that.
Basically a software layer. It makes it much, much easier for developers to actually program NVIDIA's GPUs for all these complex AI tasks.
So it's like the operating system for their chips.
Kind of, yeah. It creates this whole ecosystem. Developers learn CUDA, they build tools for CUDA. It makes it really hard for competitors to show up with a slightly faster chip. You have to replicate the whole ecosystem.
That creates stickiness. A moat, maybe?
A very powerful moat, exactly. Yeah. It's a huge advantage. It makes their dominance much more solid than just having the fastest hardware right now.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's the hardware and the software platform.
Okay.
And this insatiable demand, you're saying it all comes down to one thing.
Pretty much. The AI revolution. That's the engine driving this unprecedented demand.
AI is the new rock star, and Nvidia is basically selling the guitars, the amps, the whole stage setup.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. They're providing the fundamental infrastructure.
And AI's role is just getting bigger, isn't it? It's not just, chat bots answering questions.
Oh, far broader. We're talking training those massive language models, yes, but also powering self-driving cars. Think about the real-time processing needed there.
Huge amounts of data.
Constantly. And advanced robotics in factories, in surgery. AI is fundamentally changing how things are done in, well, almost every industry. Finance, drug discovery, logistics.
And NVIDIA's chips are the foundation for pretty much all of it.
For a vast majority of the cutting-edge stuff, yes. They are the enabling technology.
The future outlook numbers are just wild, too. I saw predictions like the AI chip market alone could hit $300 billion by 2027.
That's a common projection, yes. $300 billion. And NVIDIA is just positioned perfectly right at the crest of that wave, ready to capture a huge chunk of it.
So connecting this back to the bigger picture, the league table of companies, it's completely rearranged.
Completely. For what, 20, 30 years, it was Apple and Microsoft at the top. Maybe swapping places occasionally, but they were the giants.
The constants.
Exactly. But today, July 2025, NVIDIA leads $3.92 trillion. Microsoft is number 2, around $3.7 trillion. And Apple is third, about $3.19 trillion.
Wow. So Apple's dropped to third.
Which is incredible, considering how dominant they've been. This isn't just, a stock market shuffle. It's a signal. A fundamental shift in where the value, the technological priority, lies now.
So AI hardware is now king.
Right.
More important than maybe consumer gadgets or traditional software.
Arguably, yes. Or at least equally important. It shows that the infrastructure powering AI is seen as perhaps the most critical piece of the puzzle right now.
And the scale.
Yeah.
Get a comparison that really puts it in perspective.
Yeah, just to grasp how massive $3.92 trillion is. NVIDIA's market cap today is greater than the combined value of all the publicly listed companies in Canada.
Wow.
And Mexico. And even the entire United Kingdom.
One company worth more than the entire stock market of the UK.
Combined, yeah. Think about that economic concentration. It's a level of value we just haven't seen focused like this very often in history.
That really drives it home. Okay, so inevitably, when you see growth like this, these kinds of numbers, the question comes up.
The bubble question.
Right. Is this sustainable? Are we looking at an AI bubble, maybe specifically an Nvidia bubble? It feels like a natural question to ask when things grow this fast.
It's a very valid question, and people are asking it.
You hear concerns, right? About things like super high price-to-earnings ratio, or the fact that maybe a huge chunk of their revenue comes from just a handful of big tech customers.
Yeah.
What if one of them pulls back or tries to build their own chips?
Those are legitimate points, absolutely. The concentration risk is real. The valuation metrics are stretched by historical standards, no doubt about it. It's something analysts watch very closely.
So what's the counter-argument? What's the case for this being, well, real and sustainable?
Well, the dominant view, the consensus among most analysts, still leans towards continued growth. And the main reason is the AI market itself.
It's still early days.
Incredibly early. Despite all the hype, all the investment, we're genuinely just scratching the surface of what AI can do and where it will be integrated. The potential for expansion across basically every industry globally is still enormous. We're nowhere near saturation.
So the demand runway is still very long.
Very long. Plus, NVIDIA isn't just sitting back and collecting orders. They are pouring money into R&D, constantly, pushing the envelope with new architectures like Blackwell. They're always looking several steps ahead.
They're not just riding the wave, they're trying to build a bigger surfboard.
Yeah, exactly. And they're diversifying too, right? expanding heavily into data centers beyond just training chips, pushing into inference chips, which are used to run AI applications, not just build them. Those partnerships with automakers for self-driving cars are significant. And they're even making inroads in really complex areas, like using AI for drug discovery, material science, climate modeling.
So they're trying to build multiple pillars.
That seems to be the strategy. Now, of course, you have competitors. AMD is working hard. Intel is trying to get back in the game. There are startups. It's not like they have zero competition.
But that CUDA ecosystem you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
that's a big barrier.
It's a massive barrier. Their current tech lid combined with that software lock-in, and it gives them a really formidable advantage right now. It's tough to overcome quickly.
So the overall feeling is this signals a real shift, a new era.
I think it genuinely does. An era where AI and the specialized hardware that powers it are absolutely central to technological progress and increasingly economic value. And Nvidia, for now at least, is right at the heart of it.
Okay, so wrapping this up,
Yeah.
what's the big takeaway here? We've seen Nvidia go from, a gaming company to the most valuable company on Earth. How?
Well,
By seeing the future in their own tech and making a huge bet on AI infrastructure.
right. It's a story of vision, incredible engineering, and timing. Mastering the hardware for the biggest tech shift probably since the internet.
It really makes you think about how quickly things can change, how
Yeah.
value can just migrate. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. As you think about NVIDIA's incredible rise, maybe consider this. What are the other quiet kids out there right now? What other underlying technologies, maybe things that seem niche today, could hold the key to the next big transformation?
Good question.
What fundamental shifts might be happening kind of under the radar that could reshape everything again in the next 5 or 10 years, just like parallel processing did for AI? What's the next NVIDIA waiting in the wings?
That's a multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it?
It certainly is something to definitely keep an eye on.